I've moaned a lot about the iPad, but I think it's time I put my money where my mouth is. Or my iPad where my... No, you know what I mean. You see, I've reviewed most of Apple's recent iPads. All of them have been fantastic in terms of the hardware, the speed, but I've always moaned about the lack of pro apps and the lack of advancement with iPad OS. The only exception to all of this is the iPad mini, which I'm a broken record about. It's a brilliant content consumption device, it's a great note taker, and on that note, funnily enough, if you want to use this iPad for notes, get yourself a Paperlike. I've got one on this screen, although you can barely tell with the new version. And if you get the Pro kit, you get 2 Paperlikes in here, a lovely cleaning kit as well, which is really useful, and you get their fantastic pencil grips for the Apple Pencil. Links in the description to get the Pro bundle, or just get yourself one of these. I mean, just the Paperlike screen protector alone is fantastic. So that, combined with the size, the weight, the functionality, everything about this iPad mini makes it wonderful. The rest of them, I just can't fit them into my daily life. Even at home, I don't tend to use iPads, but certainly in this business, I can't find, apart from the iPad mini, a decent, meaningful role for any of them, whether it be the 10th generation iPad, which is still the strangest iPad ever launched, iPad Air 5, which is a brilliant version of the iPad, or the iPad Pro, which I've talked about recently. I just don't know what to do with them. However, rather than spend the rest of this video moaning about that and saying, oh, they should put Final Cut Pro on there, what's going on? You're so bored of that, I'm bored of it. I'm gonna go iPad only and do it systematically. Let me explain. Before we get started, just a very quick word from today's sponsor, which is Benks. There's 2 accessories I want to show you very quickly. The first one is the iPad Infinity Pro stand, which is amazing because firstly, it folds up, which means you can stick it in your bag and take it to meetings and product demonstrations, whatever it is that you need to do with your iPad out on the road. When it's unfolded, as you can hear, it has this 360 degree, sorry if you can hear me, rotating thing, which means you can put your iPad on here. It's compatible with the iPad Air, the iPad Pro. But yeah, I can put my iPad on there safely thanks to the magnets and swivel it around. The other thing that I want to show you very quickly is this, which isn't an Apple Pencil. This is an Apple Pencil, and this costs 140 quid. This costs £40, and this is Benks' version of the Apple Pencil. It's their stylus, and it does pretty much everything the Apple Pencil does. It doesn't have pressure sensitivity, so it's worth bearing that in mind, but everything else works the same. It operates via Bluetooth. You pair it very quickly. It snaps to your iPad like that and charges via that method. It's even got a light on the top which tells you if it's charging or if it's got the Bluetooth connection. That's a button as well, you can press it and do things with it. If you're just using your iPad for taking notes, which is what I do, just get one of these, seriously. So links to both the Infinity Pro stand and the Benks stylus in the description. So whenever I talk or write about going all in with the iPad, lots of people will leap to its defense immediately and say, yeah, I've been doing it for years now, I don't bother with the Mac, the iPad is my main device. Now that's great. In fact, it's exciting because it means that clearly it's possible. And there are loads of benefits to using this as your only device. It's light. They're probably the lightest devices Apple makes in this size. And if you pair them with the Magic Keyboard, you've suddenly basically got a laptop replacement. It's got a great keyboard, it's got a great trackpad, and there's the cost as well. If you don't go into iPad Pro territory, if you just go for the iPad mini or the iPad Air or even something like the cheaper entry-level iPads, they don't cost a huge amount when you compare them against a MacBook. And if you've ever owned an iPad, you'll know that they last forever. So whatever you buy now is a solid investment. It will last for many, many years to come. The battery life, the app availability, the fact that iPad OS is becoming quite similar to Mac OS in a lot of its features and functions and stuff. So going iPad only is a very exciting prospect, isn't it? It's just a shame there are so many challenges for me. For someone like me, the idea of going all in with the iPad is, like I say, quite exciting, but it does have its limits, and that's because of one unavoidable thing. Mac OS to me is just like a warm, worn, old, very comfortable pair of slippers. That doesn't make Mac OS better than iPad OS. That's a completely subjective topic, but for me personally, I just know that I can get things done far quicker on this than I can on this. It's just the fact that I can scoot around the file system much quicker on macOS. I can arrange multiple windows anywhere I want and in any size and any configuration on the screen, which you cannot do on Stage Manager on the iPad. And there's also a desktop on this, which I know sounds so old-fashioned, but I don't care. I use the desktop all the time to put files on temporarily. Don't worry, I don't have a massive tile of icons and unused files on there, but I use it all the time to move things around, access things quickly, and the absence of a desktop even, on the iPad is really restrictive. And then I have to mention it very quickly, I'm afraid, there is the omission of certain apps. I use Final Cut Pro to edit these videos, and I can't do that on the iPad because there is no Final Cut Pro for the iPad. There is DaVinci Resolve on the iPad Pro, but switching wholesale to a completely different editing package is such a big job for this business. However, my biggest challenge for going iPad only is the fact that I'm just scared to drop this and just use this. And this has to change. Now, I have you, my lovely YouTube audience, to thank for this, because a few weeks back I published a video about the iPad Pro, and to cut a long story short, well, you can check it out up here. I explained that due to a sponsor obligation, I needed to get an iPad Pro, and I asked for your advice how to put that significant investment to use beyond that video, and the ideas came flooding in. So you suggested that I could get into drawing on Procreate, get into gaming, I could use it as a second monitor for my production workflow, use a external display and really give Stage Manager a go, fair enough. But the most consistent suggestion that kept coming through, and you've been telling me this for ages and asking me to do it for forever, was basically to install DaVinci Resolve and give video editing a go on the iPad. I listened and I've now come up with a plan for how to do that. So thank you. Now, I can't go completely iPad only because I do still need to use Final Cut Pro for these videos. However, I do have a second YouTube channel now, which is called Mark's Solo Club. If you haven't checked it out yet, I'll put a link in the description. I suddenly thought, well, hang on a minute, that's a brand new YouTube channel. It's only got like 150 subscribers. There's not a huge amount of risk there. Why not edit the videos for that channel on the iPad Pro with DaVinci Resolve? So I'll be doing that with the iPad Pro, the M2 version. Then I'll still be using the iPad Mini, which is, oh, it's here right in front of me. I'll still be using this for note taking, for reading the scripts for these videos, etc. That is still very much a big part of my workflow. The 10th generation iPad basically used this as my main writing device, and I've been doing that over the last 2 weeks really. So most of the blogs that I've written during that time took place on this, and it's been fantastic. The other thing that I'll be doing is taking the iPad Mini away with me as my only device for a couple of days while I'm traveling somewhere, and that's going to be a very interesting video, trust me. I'll even make the entire video on the iPad Mini, so make sure you subscribe and hit the bell not to miss that one. That is my iPad challenge. It's accepted. I'm going to do it. I'll definitely keep you guys updated. And if you missed my original video where I talk about the iPad Pro and put a bit more context around that particular device, keep watching for a link to that video.